Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to your TWitWoW Fantasy Mock Draft 2023. The actual official WWE draft for 2023 begins tomorrow night with SmackDown, and it will be a two-night affair occurring over the course of tomorrow night's SmackDown and then the following Monday's Raw. Of course, we already know that we're going to have a brand split. Hopefully, it's a hard brand split. There's already a rumor that they might be bringing back brand exclusive PLEs, premium live events. I would be 100% in favor of that. But until then, we are going to treat this as a half preview predictions, half fun fantasy booking nonsense video. So, John, how you feeling, man?
Bro, I'm actually feeling really good. We've done drafts, I want to say, the last 2 years, maybe more than that. And I know that they're usually, we both try and be not necessarily more formal. I don't really like that word, but more prepared, more structured in the sense of we made this list of, like, say, I don't know, 10 each for each brand. I didn't come with anything. I was super relieved when you said, oh, bro, me either. Because I really just wanted to be more conversational, more freeform, because I'm looking forward to the draft. I mean, we're live reacting to SmackDown tomorrow. It's going to be 8 p.m. Eastern time for you guys. And then Monday, we're live right in Raw, which honestly, I treat with a bit more foreboding because it is 3 hours and it is Raw, but we'll know all the picks then. Just to kind of circle back to what you said, I do hope it's a hard brand split. We know that we got a new world title, which I know we might even get more into Saturday for TWitWoW in review. God, that TWitWoW in review is going to be interesting because there's a lot of like industry news and then like kayfabe news and all sorts of stuff. Um, and like you said about the PLEs, I would love that as well. I love that in the Ruthless Aggression era. Raw exclusive pay-per-views, SmackDown exclusive pay-per-views, and then it made the joint pay-per-views feel even more special. So I really do want to return to form here and have that form be committed to. And I'm just excited to talk about, the possibilities with you here today of what that might look like.
Yeah, it's interesting because you brought up the world title, and I actually just saw a headline recently that the odds, like the betting odds favorite to win that world title is Seth Rollins.
I saw something similar. I don't know if it was from Super Blue or what, but I saw that or I think it might have even been BBK who cited, I think, wrestle votes for that. And I take everything with a grain of salt, but Seth should be considered a favorite. Seth has been putting in the work. He's definitely a workhorse for that company, and I think he'd be a great first guy to really legitimize the title. I mean, it's kind of poetic because when the Universal title was introduced, he was one of the guys in consideration, but he lost to Finn Balor at that year's SummerSlam. Balor would become the inaugural champion, but then of course he had to vacate it. So we'll see if Seth has better luck this time around.
All right, let's. Well, let me ask you this actually: what would you rather do first? And then obviously, whatever we do first would be the opposite of that would go second. Between our what we want versus what we think is going to happen, fantasy drafts.
Bro, you know what? Because I think what we want to happen is always more fun. Let's get the business stuff out of the way first. Let's talk about what we think might happen.
Okay, so as far as what we think might happen, do we want to treat this like we're going to be having brand exclusive PLEs, or do we want to go forward with the assumption that we're going to stay a little more like loosey goosey? We're going to keep a hard brand split in the sense that we're only going to have maybe like one or two people a week showing up on the opposite brand, but all the pay per views will still be mixed branded and that kind of stuff.
Um, I'd be curious to know your opinion rather than just going with mine, getting the first verdict. But I would like to treat it as if we're going to get exclusive PLEs because Triple H did stress, when he announced the draft that this is going to change everything. And he might have even used the term game changer, which I can't, say without at least giggling inside now because of, Paul William Gregor and all history with that term and Roman Reigns, oddly enough. But yeah, I really do think that this is going to be kind of a watershed moment for WWE, at least in terms of their programming. And I do think exclusive PLEs are going to happen. So I'd like to approach it with that foot forward. Do you agree?
That works. That works. Yeah, I'm super down. I was thinking we would do like kind of the more like the loosey goosey thing with the think what's going to happen and then keep it more of a strict brand split for the what we want to happen thing. But if you want to keep it a strict brand split for both, I'm fine with that for sure.
Yeah, I mean, whatever you want. Again, I wanted to be nice and relaxed. Because who knows, dude? With WWE too, Who's to even say they could do exclusive PLEs for like the first 4 to 6 months, and then that would gradually be loose, and then we'll go back to the old stuff.
That
So
does seem to be the trend where they do the brand split, and then it's a really hard set brand split for a while, but then eventually they're like, oh, but this one show is struggling with ratings, so we have to start featuring people from the stronger
yeah,
show on it, and it's like that's where it all goes down the toilet.
exactly. So how about that? How about because I'm hoping for exclusive PLEs, why don't we just save that for like the fantasy talk, and then if we're talking about what we think is going to happen, why don't we just treat it like they're going to commit to these superstars, but other things might be a bit lax. So yeah, we'll see. But what's the first big move you think? Well, what do you want to talk about first? Raw getting the first pick or SmackDown getting the first pick? How should we approach
Let's
this?
well let's just treat it like the way that they've been treating it over the last few years, where each round, quote unquote, is 5 picks, and it's Raw, SmackDown, Raw, SmackDown, Raw. So that for every 2 picks SmackDown gets, Raw gets 3, because Raw is 3 hours to SmackDown's 2.
Right. Perfect. Okay.
So first overall pick, I'm assuming, would be Roman.
Yeah, you know what, dude? I wanted to ask you, and now's as good a time as any. I did see a rumor that USA specifically, for Raw wants Roman Reigns in the bloodline.
Yep.
Do you think that happens? Do you think we just get the shake up here and we get Reigns to Raw?
Yeah, I do. I really do. I think that that is 100% happening. I think we're going to get Reigns over to Raw. And I think that Seth Rollins and maybe even also Cody Rhodes to SmackDown. But I think Seth Rollins is like a bare minimum definite to SmackDown.
It's so funny you say that because you and I are somewhat on the same wavelength because I too have thought about Seth Cody. Let me ask you a follow up question because, like I said, I wanted this year to be more conversational, more freeform. So Raw gets 3 picks, right?
Yeah.
And Triple H has stressed that like everybody is eligible. Do you think they'll use that as kind of a loophole to cause tension with the first 3 drafts because they said the bloodline would be Roman, Solo, and Paul Heyman, and then you kind of leave the Usos kind of in an ambiguity there, just to kind of
Ooh,
see. Yeah,
that is, I don't know. It's interesting because when I think of like, maybe I'm letting our Discord drafts cloud my judgment, because when I
yeah.
think of a draft, I think like one person at a time. But you're right that WWE does tend to draft like tag teams and factions together as one draft pick, don't
They do, and the only reason I'm wondering if they're gonna like tease that separation is because we know in storyline the Usos they're not totally on the outs yet,
they?
obviously,
Right.
but they're in a very precarious position within the faction. So I didn't know it for TV, right? Because Solo, like people have been pointing out, dude. I know that this would be better suited probably for TWitWoW and review on Saturday, but then again, we won't have to talk about it on TWitWoW review. We talk about it here, so I guess no harm done. Um, they were teasing on Raw, the Usos kind of confronting Sammy. Sammy confronts Jay, but then Jimmy confronts Sammy. And then when Jimmy finds out that Jay was talked to by Sammy, he starts getting a bit apoplectic. He starts getting a bit heated. And Solo, just by touching Jimmy's shoulder and looking at him, calms him down and he sits down. And people have noted that that's kind of like a power shift in the bloodline. Like Solo has really moved up in this faction.
Yeah.
So I feel like in kayfabe, right? Roman values Solo more than the Usos right now. And so if they only get 3 picks, you are right that they treat him as 1 pick, so maybe they'd get away with that. But I do wonder if they're going to just be treated as separate entities and it's going to be Roman, Paul Heyman again, because they said everybody's eligible, so they could use that as a loophole. Like, why didn't you take one of the Usos? And Solo, because that's all Roman feels like he needs to ride with right now because the Usos have become more unreliable. And I'm
Yeah.
just wondering what your thoughts are if you think that I'm out of pocket, if you think that that's plausible, just what your thoughts are
I
about
do
that.
not think you're out of pocket. I definitely don't think you're out of pocket. I had this weird fantasy booking in my mind that I was actually going to bring up when we got to the what we want to happen, but maybe it's realistic enough that it might actually happen. The idea that you get Roman and Solo and Heyman drafted to one brand, but then instead of the Usos being drafted as a team, only one or the other gets. I would imagine, really, realistically, Jay Uso would get drafted first to a brand, and that would leave Jimmy on the outs, and then Jimmy would get drafted later on, but to a different brand, and it would split up the Usos. But then Roman would use his clout to reunite the Usos, and in my mind, I almost think it would be more interesting if Jay was initially drafted to the same team as the bloodline, and Jimmy was left out in the cold. And Roman used his clout to bring Jimmy back to the show that the rest of the bloodline was on. And it pissed Jay off because Jay's like, man, I was all excited because I thought I was finally going to be able to go back to doing single stuff. And then you brought Jimmy back, and now I'm just back to being one of the Usos. I don't want to be one of the Usos. I want to be main event Jay, goddammit.
You and I, again, it's so interesting that you and I are looking at similar things, albeit in slightly different ways, because you and I definitely want to play with the bloodline. And
Yeah.
I love that you're coming with that energy and everything. For me, see, this is how crazy I am, right? Just to take the ball and run with it, which incidentally, the NFL draft is happening as we're doing our mock draft. So happy draft day to football fans. Because I look at it as like the hero's journey for Jay, because I see them losing on Friday. I'll just get that out of the way now. I don't think they're getting the titles back. I don't think they should get the titles back. I don't think that's as narratively interesting as them just getting the titles back. Um, and then Roman, Paul, Solo, and Jimmy are on one side because Jimmy already got hot at Jay. Like, you got to stop talking to Sammy. So they might even look at him talking to Sammy as like, oh, he's gotten to you. You're not really bloodline. And, Jimmy would think that, oh, I proved myself or whatever. But then Roman, of course, would be gaslighting him, verbally, emotionally abusing him, maybe even at times physical. He hasn't done that with the Usos in a while, but I haven't forgotten the early days of the bloodline when it was coming together, how he would beat the shit out of Jey Uso.
Yeah.
And Jay, because he's still a good brother, and again, this is where I get wild, right? Because I know they're never going to do this, but like, he's like, shit, I got to find a way to get on that brand and get to Jimmy. So he tries to win Money in the Bank, he fails, and then it culminates in him winning the fucking Rumble. And then him, who I look at Jay as like more of a Rocky Balboa spirit than like a Cody Rhodes in fucking Philadelphia, beats fucking Roman Reigns and is able to like get on that brand, get the titles, take that power away from Roman and save his family, like his family and Jimmy. This draft could be a huge mechanism to really fucking make Jey Uso and the whole main event Jey Uso thing that's been happening. I just don't think they're going to go that far. I do, however, think that Jay is going to be the one to be left behind at a minimum. So that could be very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. I basically like my first thought was basically like have Jay be by himself on a brand and have Roman use his power to bring Jay back to the bloodline and have Jay be pissed about that. But then
Yes.
like another part of me was like maybe it would be more interesting if Jay was on the same brand as the bloodline and Jimmy was on his own and Jimmy was like floundering and Roman brought him back because he didn't want Jimmy being a bad representative of the bloodline on another brand. And that still pissed Jay off because Jay still wanted to do solo shit.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that could be like where I love your idea is that because we've already seen like the turmoil and the bond and stuff between Jimmy and Jay, but I would like to explore the idea of identity a bit further because identity is where it started for Jay. And I think that's where you're coming from with it too, because you probably haven't forgotten this. I haven't. That promo where he says, when people come up to me, they ask, which one are you? And that's kind of the crux of the whole thing. It's like Jay was really in the midst of like this identity formation as separate from Jimmy. And now Roman is kind of the one bringing him back to that old identity forcibly. And I find that to be a really fascinating idea to play with. So I do like where your head's at a lot. I'm very curious what they'll do come Friday and then Monday.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see. So what are we going with here as far as actual? Because I figured because we already kind of agreed that we would do like 10 picks each. Because we're kind of doing this now like cooperatively, we'll just do like 4 rounds in this, and then we'll do like our for like what we want to happen individually, separately, like 10 picks each.
Okay.
So cooperatively, first round, first pick. Do we agree Roman Reigns to Raw?
Yeah, for sure.
Or do we want to say like Bloodline to Raw, which would be then Roman Solo Heyman?
I like that.
Or do
I
you
like
want to
that.
just do
Yeah.
the whole bloodline? Paul,
Yeah.
Roman, Solo, Heyman, and both Usos, all of them as one first pick.
Yeah. Sure.
Do you think? What do you think is best?
Um,
What do you think is most likely to happen? Actually, is what I should say.
I still feel like the Usos are going to be screwed with. So when I think Bloodline, I do just think Roman, Solo, and Heyman right now.
Okay, all right.
I just can't shake
You
it. I could be
know,
way off.
here's another suggestion. What if instead of quote unquote the bloodline, we do Roman Reigns and he just has Paul Heyman with him? Because they'll do that a lot. Well, they'll have an individual performer, but like their manager will be considered a part of their act.
Yeah.
So it would be Roman and Paul, and then Solo would have to be a separate draft pick, and then the Usos could be another draft pick separately.
You know what? I like that. I think that's a fair
So
compromise.
let's do that. Let's do Roman first overall to Raw with Heyman. And then our second pick, who would you think would be set? Probably Cody, right? Like just knowing the way they are.
Yeah,
Or
they're gonna
actually
want to
maybe
go.
Bianca.
Ooh, see, that would be good because that would give the women lots of love. I love that idea. We'll do Bianca.
We'll
Yeah,
do Bianca to SmackDown. And then third overall pick, because of Roman, Solo Sikoa.
there you go.
Then
Perfect.
fourth overall pick can be Cody, right?
Yeah, Cody to
Cody to
SmackDown, you mean,
SmackDown,
right?
right? Then
Yeah,
fifth overall pick can be the Usos, right?
yeah.
Then we get into the second round. First pick of the second round, who is Raw taking? They need a women's champion, right? So maybe they take Rhea.
That would be interesting. Rhea would be interesting. Um, yeah, they'd have to. They'd have to if Bianca's going to SmackDown. Yeah, so Rhea's agreeable.
So then first, or I guess second overall pick of the second round, SmackDown would take Seth, I would assume, right?
I would think so.
Okay. So third overall pick, second round, we've got Raw on the clock. Who do you think Raw would take?
Is it bad that I've been thinking about like Randy Orton, even though he's been injured for so long?
I don't
I'm
think
like,
that we're gonna have Randy Orton get drafted at all.
hmm. What about Bray? Because he was more recently injured, but he was still more visible.
I don't think he's gonna get drafted at all either. I think it's gonna be more like recent people, guys like Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, Riddle, and women like Charlotte, Damage Control, like that kind of shit.
Okay, so Raw's getting this pick.
Raw can, yeah, Raw has their pick of the litter.
Hmm. They wouldn't get Gunther, right, and switch the mid card champions, you think?
You know what? That's a really good idea, actually. I do think that the mid card titles are going to swap. Yeah, I do.
So maybe Gunther for next pick here, and then
Yeah,
Theory would be,
we'll go
yeah.
Gunther, and then yeah, we'll go Theory with the fourth pick in the second round, and then the last pick in the second round is another Raw pick. And who do we think? Maybe I'm going to say Charlotte Flair. Honestly, I'm just going to say it. It just
Dude,
makes
you
sense.
literally pulled that out of my mind because I was thinking
Yeah,
Charlotte because I wanted
yeah.
to be mindful of the women.
And then first pick in the third round would be Raw again. And for that, I am going to say Drew McIntyre.
Agreeable.
And then second pick in the third round. Um, you know what? I'm gonna say Io, low key to SmackDown.
Yeah, yeah, again, you're kind of like in my head here because I was even thinking like damage control. I definitely think is going to get split up. That's not just a
Yeah,
fantasy thing for me.
yeah,
Um, and yeah, EO's agreeable for sure.
yeah.
Actually, dude, you know what? We got to back up a bit here because what about NXT?
Do you
Like
think
NXT
NXT
stay
is going
part of
to
the draft.
draft people, or do you think NXT is just going to have people get drafted?
The way it sounded to me, NXT was going to be able to take part in the draft. I don't know. We got Alex and others in chat. Maybe people can either like speak
I'm
against
under
me
the
or like,
impression that
yeah,
it's just going to be NXT stars getting drafted to Raw and SmackDown. I was not under the impression that anyone was going to get drafted to NXT. Oh my god.
what?
Just a horrible, truly horrific draft pick just got made.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. But no, yeah, like yeah, Foster, I fucking wish we could draft the title, but not its champion. That should be a new concept going forward, given the shit we have to deal with. But yeah, I was really under the impression that NXT would draft, but even if we treated it as their superstars getting drafted, I would have to think Braun goes pretty early to me. You know, I've been really high on getting Braun in the main roster this year, and I still feel like that has a good chance of happening. So I don't know where he kind of fits. Okay, so even Foster said I doubt NXT drafts people, but I could see NXT getting people afterwards. Yeah, that would be fucking crazy.
Maybe NXT will be part of like a supplemental draft where after SmackDown and then after Raw, they get like a certain little small like crop of undrafted people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
Like
that could
maybe like
happen. I
five or
actually
six
like that
people.
idea.
Yeah, that would be my guess.
I could see just because I feel like when you say supplemental draft, I really do feel like it's low mid card and just straight up undercard. So I could see like Ali going to NXT, for instance, right?
Yeah.
And it's just yeah, that could be the kind of scheme that they're working with potentially. Um, so yeah. I guess picking up where we left off, what round are we be in now?
This was the third round. Um, oh god, I think was EO the second pick in the third round? I think so.
I believe that's what you said.
Because Charlotte was the last pick in the second round, and then I said Drew was the first pick of the third round, and then the second pick of the third round would be a SmackDown pick, and I said EO, and you brought up Damage Control, and then we started talking about NXT.
Yeah, and then and this was like all after I had said Gunther as well and swapping the mid card champions. So we know Austin Theory then would go to SmackDown. Um, okay, so then Raw gets the next draft pick, right?
Wait, are we just in agreement that EO is round three, pick two?
I would think so. Yeah, I would think
Okay, so
so.
then yeah, Raw would be round three, pick three.
Okay. Becky, right?
Yes. Honestly, tempted to even swap those and have SmackDown take Becky.
Well, I mean, SmackDown is where it all kind of started for her,
Yeah.
as far as like main roster and stuff. Like she was the first ever SmackDown Women's Champion and everything. So that does seem apropos. Do you want to swap?
You know, it's interesting because this almost does have to be partially a preview prediction too, because isn't EO challenging Bianca for the? Or no, that's going to be at Backlash.
That is going to be a backlash.
So
Yeah.
SmackDown almost needs to value EO because they lost Rhea, and Rhea is not defending her title at Backlash.
Oh, she is though against Zelina Vega.
Oh, fuck. Okay, so then we'll do this. We'll have SmackDown take EO at 302. Zelina Vega should go to Raw for sure, but I will agree with you that Raw can take Becky first.
Yeah.
And then at 304, who does SmackDown take?
Hmm. Sheamus, maybe.
Dude, we are same thoughts so much. Holy shit, yeah, I have Sheamus. Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
And then
wow, that's crazy.
305, Raw takes Zelina Vega.
Okay.
Or maybe they take the LWO, and that includes Zelina Vega.
Yeah. Yeah, that's smart because then you get more bang for your buck, and maybe they would fucking use Santos, but I doubt it.
Yeah.
Christ.
So then round four, last five picks that we're doing here for this predictive thing, predictive mock. Round four, pick one.
Oh,
Again, we've got a Raw pick here.
can I put a name out there? Just because they're getting pushed lately.
Braun Breaker.
Amos.
Oh, yeah. We did already have Seth get taken. Omos is a good pick. Seth got drafted to SmackDown. We would be breaking him away from Omos, which makes sense since it feels like a one-off. So if you want to go Omos, I was going to say Braun Breaker.
See, yeah, I have to defer to you. I have to because you know I've been insisting on the Braun Breaker agenda. So yeah, yeah, Braun. But then I would think Amos would be
Low-key,
this
Braun
round.
probably gets drafted before the fourth round. He's probably like a first or second round pick, honestly.
I agree with you, actually. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Um, so we'll just pretend like he got drafted earlier and move everything else back and just pretend like whatever, you know?
Okay.
So we'll say that Braun and then you said Omos. And then so what shows are we imagining those two guys on actually? Would you agree that Braun makes sense on Raw and Omos makes more sense on SmackDown though?
You know what? I would only because I'm not
Okay.
like I don't want to be insulting to Amos, but when you look at the lineage of SmackDown and the big guys they've had, like Mark Henry and Great Khali, like I just
Kali,
feel
yeah.
like he fits that scheme better.
Well, plus
Whereas
we're
Braun,
we're
dude,
moving Roman and the big like god titles to Raw, and the lesser title, the new one, is going to be on SmackDown. So it
just
makes
like the
sense for
old
that. Yeah,
days.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
just like the old days. And dude, I've been saying, and I will die on this hill. Braun's like the next guy. Like
Right.
yeah, Raw makes perfect sense for him for sure.
Okay. So we'll say Braun Breaker 401, Amos 402. 403 is a Raw pick. Let's say they keep Bailey around, maybe, or or maybe yeah. I think that makes sense, right?
Yeah, yeah, you know what? I can agree with that. Yeah,
Can you think
absolutely.
of anyone else that you would rather have that's left on the board? Like if you were the Raw GM, if you were a USA exec, who would you rather take here than Bailey?
Let me take a look at the roster list that you so courteously sent me.
Maybe AJ, but he's been injured.
Yeah, and again, if we're treating injured people like as out of sight, out of mind for the moment, because I already brought up Randy Orton and Big E's another
Oh,
one. God, I miss
out of sight,
Big
out of
E's.
mind is me. That's my life. That's
Yeah,
that's my existence.
God damn, like I miss Big E so fucking much. But yeah, looking at the women, all due respect to them, like Bailey's not. Wait, what about Asuka?
There you go. 403 is Asuka. 404 to SmackDown.
Dude,
Um,
dude, what if that is Bailey and then her and Io can maybe beef? Because like clearly Bailey's been feeling a kind of way about Io challenging Bianca, and then
yeah,
like
that's possible. And then Dakota ends up on Raw, and
yeah,
she is like
yeah,
out on her own and kind of floundering, I would imagine.
exactly, yeah.
I don't know. I kind of have this vision of Dakota ending up on NXT and maybe even making a run at the NXT Women's title since she never really won it and she was always treated as like a jobber in NXT.
Yeah, I've always wanted that for her. Because look, this is nothing against Dakota. I actually think she's a really good fucking in ring worker and obviously a total fucking sweetheart, which we desperately need more of in wrestling. But I never envisioned her being a main roster women's champion. Like, I feel like the NXT women's title would be like the peak of her WWE career. And I really want that for her. So I actually really like that idea.
So, what are we doing here at 404? Because we've got Asuka going at 403. So, what do we do at 404
And
for
again, this would be
SmackDown?
SmackDown.
Yeah.
I still think Bailey, man. I like the idea of
So, you
Bailey
just
just
want to keep
going.
Io and Bailey both on the same brand and have them beef.
Because here's the thing, Bailey at this stage of her career, which it kind of sucks because I feel like she had more to do on her own merits, but it seems like she's helping build the women up. Like she did that for Bianca before Bianca went on her monster run.
Right.
I feel like Bailey is going to give Io that rub. Like that's just the gut feeling I have. So
Yeah.
you keep them together and you have them do a program. That's just my feeling.
All right. That makes sense. And then our last pick that we're going to be trying to predict here, most likely to go to Raw. I'm going to say Dominic Mysterio. Or I guess just the Judgment Day, really, in general.
Oh God, that's so smart. But you know what I was thinking looking at this roster list that you sent me? What if they use this to split up the Street Profits and we get Montez Ford going to Raw? We start that
I
singles
mean,
push.
I wouldn't be opposed to that, but I think that would happen later on in the draft, don't you?
So you think, yeah, 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 that's fair. We can do Judgment Day for now. I'll play ball with you. That's agreeable.
They've just been so prominent on the show.
That's very true. That's very true. I'm just wondering if like yeah, Street Profits might get split up in this draft.
Rey Mysterio is probably going to get overdrafted.
Yeah, probably.
Realistically, he'll probably be in one of the first 4 rounds, and we just didn't mention him.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely.
So, all right. So that's more of an idea of what we expect to happen. Now let's start talking a little bit more about what we think or what we want to happen. Really, what we want to happen. What we if we were actually in control of these brands, what we would want to do with this roster.
Can
And
I just make a broad brushstroke statement to kind of orient my thoughts on at least one
absolutely,
brand?
man. Yeah.
I appreciate it. I would love to kind of run back the whole idea of SmackDown as a land of opportunity. The only difference is I would keep the shitters out and I would make it kind of like a workhorse brand low key. Like I was watching a clip from Raw today because I've been very active in the Discord lately. Everybody join the Discord if you haven't. $3 a month. Details in the Patreon in the description box below. Of Gable versus Ali, and it was a really fun match. And Ali surprisingly got the win, but dude, Gable is a beast, dude.
Yes.
And like, you know what I kept thinking about? I'm like, I want him to fight Gunther, and I want to see the visual of him doing a Chaos Theory to Gunther because he can, because
Right.
he did one to fucking Braun at WrestleMania.
Dude, let's work together on this one too because I'm firmly in your corner on this. I completely agree with what you're saying. We are completely on the same page here. And I just want to build upon that. Raw would make sense as like the entertainment brand, and that's not to say that Raw is the brand of shitty wrestlers. It's just to say that Raw prioritizes the characters, and literally that's the USA Network. Their tagline is "Characters Welcome," right? So Raw would prioritize the characters and like the entertainment factor, and the wrestling would obviously still be important, but it would be secondary. And then the SmackDown brand would be like the workhorse brand. That would be like the Gunthers of the world and the Chad Gables of the world, like you just brought up.
Yeah, dude, like here's the thing. Maybe I'm too steeped in my own nostalgia, but first of all, I completely agree with your assessment of both shows and how they're oriented and like how they're presented thematically. And I look at if Roman Reigns goes to Raw, when he decides to show up to TV, he's the Triple H spot where he has the 20-minute fucking promo
To
segments.
open every
Yeah,
show, yeah.
yeah, exactly. Whereas with Smack, like I would love, and again, maybe this is me too steeped, in my time, but I would love like a new SmackDown 6 that would have guys like Gable and stuff a part of it, man. Like I would really love that vision for Smack. And when you have a guy like Gunther, which again, if this is the fantasy section, I would have him stay where he is. Like, dude, that is for those that are like, the PWG, ROH type wrestling, like that scratches that itch. And I think it even does it better than ROH personally. But yeah, definitely, I think we're definitely in sync on that for sure.
New SmackDown 6, but with women.
True. Yeah, I could fucking see
You
that too.
keep
They
Rhea
have the
on
talent.
SmackDown. You send Bailey and Io to SmackDown. You bring Charlotte over to Raw. We're already building something here. You keep Liv Morgan on SmackDown. That's four. We're already up to four because we've got Rhea, Bailey, Io, Liv. That's four. We need two more.
Hmm. Do we
Call
call
up.
people up from
I was
NXT?
just gonna
Like
say,
what?
call up Gigi Dolan. There's five.
Yeah.
We just need
What
one
about
more.
Roxanne? What
Chelsea
about
Green.
Roxanne?
Chelsea Green makes six. Hell,
Okay,
Shayna
Chelsea.
Baszler could make six. My mom just pointed out Shayna Baszler's still around. She could be six.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that.
We could have a
Um,
SmackDown 6 of women, and we can still have a SmackDown 6 for men. We could have like Chad Gable, Santos Escobar. I've already run out of names. Help me, John,
I
please.
mean, Gunther, I think would be a part of it as the champion because God knows he's fucking
See, but I
insane.
feel like he's the main eventer, and that's why like SmackDown 6 to me is like mid carders.
That's fair. That's fair. Fuck. Who did you say again for men? I'm sorry, just to
I
keep everything
literally
even.
only named Santos Escobar and Chad Gable.
What about Ali? If Ali would go to
Mustafa Ali
SmackDown?
works. Ricochet, I guess we could include.
Yeah, yeah, as long as he's not too sensitive about his baldness. Um, let's see. Um, he's not really known for his work rate, but I kind of want Boogs in there. I don't know though. I wish he would kind of diversify a bit in the ring.
Oh, dude, Kofi and Xavier could be the other two.
That's a great trade. Yeah, I do enjoy that we're getting to see Xavier more in singles. Like him facing
Yeah,
Gunther was a nice pop for
absolutely.
me. Yeah, yeah, definitely. Let me let me just see if there's anybody else.
And then like Raw would get to keep Otis, and he could keep doing his stuff with Mansois and Massey and the
Yeah,
Maximum Male models because that shit's genuinely entertaining to me. I like that stuff.
yeah, for sure, for sure, that works. Let's see. Oh, Foster said SmackDown needs new women and younger talent should be featured. Yeah, I definitely they need to utilize their women better, bro. And given how big of a fucking Stardom fan I am and that I know Ashton is, they are they are all about that youth movement, bro.
Bro,
God damn.
you already know, I have been saying for years at this point that the WWE needs to treat itself more like a pipeline where you obviously start training in the PC, the Performance Center. Once you get good enough to go on TV, or really once you get good enough to start wrestling in front of people, you start wrestling shows on NXT's like touring events. Once you get good enough to go on TV, you go on NXT television. Once you get good enough for the main roster, you go to SmackDown. And then once you feel like a more complete product and not just a good wrestler, then you go to Raw.
Exactly.
Or other way
Exactly.
around, it could work the other way around. If you're on NXT and you're a finished TV product, but not that great of a wrestler, you go to Raw and you get to be entertaining on Raw with like the Austin Theories and the Mizes of the world. And once you get to be good enough of a wrestler, then you maybe try and cut your teeth over on SmackDown in the land of the workhorses.
Yeah. I think that is 1000% agreeable to me. Yeah. Let's see.
That's why I think Grayson Waller is going to end up getting drafted to Raw sooner than later.
He'd be good for that. That like if we have to use him, right? That's a good fit for him.
Yeah, because there's
Um,
no way he's beating Mello. Mello literally just won the title. There's no way.
yeah, in a world where Carmelo isn't the champion and he was viable, he's kind of a tricky one because he is charismatic as hell. So I feel like he'd fit and run that way. But given his size and how he works, he could be like the ace of SmackDown to me. Um, so yeah, but he's a champion, so we probably don't have to worry about him for now. Um, who? Because I am thinking about who they might poach for SmackDown. You don't think Roxanne's gonna go anywhere? Because she
No.
is young and a woman, like
She
kind of
well, the
fits.
fact that she's young and how young she is exactly why I don't think she's going to get called up yet.
That's fair.
Bro, do you remember the
Um,
conversations that we used to have about Paige in NXT about how like, oh, maybe when she's 25 they'll call her up because that's the age that you can legally rent a car in the US?
yeah. Oh God, I do remember those.
Roxanne's like 21, bro.
Damn. Uh there was a name I was gonna say. Well, Indy Hartwell's currently the champion, but I don't know how long her reign's gonna be. I wonder if they would
She
want to grab
literally
her.
just retained the title
Yeah, just retain the title. Yeah, because
at
like
Spring Breakin'.
all this talk about Bailey and stuff, like it'd be so cool to have her and Bailey on the same brand and do
Oh
stuff.
yeah, Wendy Chu. Wendy Chu might be getting called up. That would be great. She'd be a great Raw addition, I think.
Yeah, she would because again, if it's characters welcome, you do those backstage sleeping segments. Yeah, that
Yeah,
might
dude,
work.
literally, as much as I love her wrestling, I do think she's like, literally, if she would go to Raw, even with damage control there, she would be firmly in the top 10, maybe even closing in on the top 5 wrestlers on that brand. You don't even need to have her wrestle. You could literally just do backstage segments with her for like 3 months to build up towards her first match.
Yeah, I agree with you. I know WWE doesn't really give a shit, which is why I'm even fielding this at all. Do we think a Tiffany Stratton goes to Raw or whatever, or do we think like she gets to be like mini Charlotte in her own like kind of territory away from Charlotte?
No, dude, literally, didn't you see Tiffany Stratton literally just put out a statement within the last like 2 or 3 weeks saying that she doesn't want to leave NXT because she knows that she still needs work in some stuff.
Oh, I honestly respect that.
Yeah, dude, she
Um,
literally said like I still, I don't want to leave NXT. I know that I still need work in my psychology and my selling. She literally said that.
Holy shit!
Yeah.
You know what? Unironically, respect to Tiffany Stratton.
Yep.
That's really cool.
Oh
Wow.
yeah, Alex Foster made a great point. Pretty Deadly, also probably going to get called up, and he said they're probably SmackDown bound, and I wouldn't have a problem with that, but I do think that because they are such a gimmick, I think that they would fit on Raw really well too.
Can I ask a question respectfully? You think WWE is gonna just treat Pretty Deadly like Breeze and Fandango 2.0?
Yes.
Then definitely Raw, but then I could see them doing a SmackDown run later, honestly.
Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
Breezango made their made their names on SmackDown basically.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's kind of a shame because from what I remember about Pretty Deadly, they actually can work really well, which isn't to say the
Yeah.
Breeze and Fandango couldn't. They actually could, and I feel like their gimmicks almost hampered that in a way. But yeah.
I'll never
Um
forget that one match where they were against the Usos and the one Uso got up on the top rope like they were going to splash Breeze and Breeze just rolled to the other side of the ring. Like it was some Orange Cassidy shit before Orange Cassidy was really popular.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, damn. Um Oh God. Foster said why Pretty Deadly are probably going to be drafted since they were drowned by Tony. NXT is not safe, man. NXT is not safe. Um,
Jesus
do we
Christ.
do we think because Ali now just got a win over Gable, and it wasn't that long ago that he was like publicly asking for his release. Do we think again, because you and I were talking about this over Rocket League last night, that GYV gets drafted maybe to SmackDown and they start getting wins, and that's like okay, now we have a reason to stick around. Maybe we won't, formally take our release come October.
That would be great. I would love that. I mean, dude, I think something else that we discussed recently, it might have even been just this past Monday during game night, was the idea that they should bolster the tag division so that they can have a hard brand split and the tag titles can get split as well.
Yes, and I'm for the record, I'm 100% for that. 100% for that. I'm actually a bit disappointed that they haven't done that already, to be quite honest with you, and it makes me kind of wonder if they will. But yeah, that 1,000% should happen.
Yeah. So, there we go. Any other stuff that you wanted to talk about here?
Um, no, man, I think I'm good actually.
Yeah. I'm feeling pretty satisfied with the discussion that we've had here today.
Yeah, God, this is our best draft ever. Holy shit, I love this. I should come unprepared to work more often. This is great. Yeah, I've really because I don't want to overstay my welcome, and I don't want to have conversations that literally aren't rooted in anything. because even the fantasy stuff, I would like to have at least, a thin line of plausibility. Um, so yeah, I think we could close it out here and get all you football fans back to the NFL draft, which is actually happening. That's 1000% real. And the real WWE draft is going to be happening Friday, 8 p.m. We are live writing the whole thing. It's going to be headlined by the Undisputed Tag Team Championship rematch, Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens versus the Usos. And then, yeah, it continues Monday on Raw. So hopefully it's good. Hopefully it's not too painful. And Ashton, do you have any closing remarks or whatever before I formally do the outro? I don't want to take the ball away from you unnecessarily. If you have anything else you want to say.
My friend, I haven't.
Excellent. I think we all did great. I think chat did great. I am so proud of literally everyone. So thank you guys. Leave a like as you file out. Subscribe, click the bell icon for notifications so you don't miss any of that TWitWoW goodness. Check out everything we're involved in the description box. Follow us on Twitter and Twitch because we are the best wrestling podcast in all the IWC. And folks, we will see you tomorrow, 8 p.m. SmackDown live reactions again, as I have stressed. First night of the draft. Undisputed Tag Team Championship main event. Gotta be there. Gotta be TwitWoW. Best coverage you'll get on the web today. And then we're going to follow that up Saturday with TwitWoW in review at 10. And then, Monday, going to do part 2 of the draft, from 8 to 11, all 3 hours Monday Night Raw. So again, hopefully it's not too painful because I know Raw is kind of, so we'll see. We're going to see who goes to what brand. Hopefully it all works out. So guys, until then, be good to yourselves, be good to each other. One last time, football fans, enjoy your draft tonight. This is your night. And for you wrestling fans, we'll be seeing you tomorrow and Saturday for some great content. Tune in. Peace out.